Hi, and welcome to our fraction math app office hours tutorial. We're just going to kind of explain and explore the fraction math app and see how we can implement it in our classrooms and everything that it has to offer. So during this session, we're going to really be focusing on how we can represent fractions, how we can use the fraction app to compare fractions, how we can use the fraction math app to find equivalent fractions, and how we can use the fraction math app to explore some operations with fractions. We're specifically going to look at multiplying a fraction by a whole number. Just a shout out for grade 5, there are a bunch of extra videos that are embedded in the essential tasks, especially in those teacher notes. So for like multiplying a fraction by a fraction or division with fractions, check those videos out because it'll talk you through the math app as well. Just a quick plug here, all of our math apps have this little eye down here at the bottom. And this little eye is just a great little informational nugget. So when you click the eye, this will show up. It's just kind of a reminder and a how-to on how to use this app and some different features that it has. So after this video, if there's something that you want to re-see or something that you forgot about before you work on this math app with your students, feel free to check this out. It will always be there for you. So a couple different ways to get to the fraction math app. One way is through ClassLink. You'll notice the little math app icon will be somewhere in your ClassLink. We also have it on our second slide. If a math app is appropriate for the lesson, you'll see it on that little bookshelf somewhere, that little math app link. And also on student slides, you'll see the link available for students. So you'll notice that the fraction math app, unfortunately, is not shareable. So some of our other math apps, it has that little arrow down at the bottom and we can just copy and paste. We can put stuff in there for our students. They can share it back with us. Unfortunately, the fraction math app does not have that capability. So in order for students to share on the fraction math app, they're really going to need to take that screenshot. So here are some directions for the screenshot, taking a screenshot on a Chromebook. And if you check out some of our previous office hours, we have this great little resource here from Melissa at Hilltop that kind of explains that sharing capability from these math apps. But definitely directions for taking a screenshot from a Chromebook is probably going to look different on your laptop or the device that you're using if you're not using the same kind of Chromebook as the students. So let's get started. Let's kind of jump in. The first thing that we're going to practice, and feel free to use the practice slides to kind of and pause to show your thinking. But we're going to look at how to create a model to show 1/4. So here's my fraction app. I already had it open. This is exactly what it will open to if you open it from the link from the slides. If you open it from ClassLink, you're going to have to click open web page for that. So I'm highly going to recommend when we're thinking about what fraction representation we want to choose, I'm going to highly recommend to choose fraction bars. The reason being is when we think CRA, when we think about our students drawing what they're representing here, I know this is kind of a little digitally, it's a little bit between that C and that R, right? Because they're not actually physically manipulating those tools. But right now, this is what we have. We really don't want them to represent their thinking in a way that they can easily draw. So for that reason, I would highly recommend using the fraction bars over the fraction circles because it's just a little bit more user-friendly when we're thinking drawing. Like drawing fifths in a circle doesn't visually come as easily. So we can also resize this. So I would encourage you to have your students resize for their pictures, especially when they're taking those screenshots. And if you're presenting to your students, you might want to resize this as well so they can see everything that you're doing. So we're talking about creating 1/4. I know that I'm going to have 4 different parts here. So I've created my fraction and my whole. I can go down here to the bottom where you see these fill colors. I can select whatever color I want. And bop that in. Now it is filled. I show 1/4. We can label our fractions, so I could have this little label. So the program can tell me that this is 1/4, which you can have set up before you start shading or after, whenever you want. We can also take, I've selected this, and we can rotate. So if I want to represent my fraction vertically instead of horizontally, I can click this little rotate button at the end. So all a student would have to do here is take that screenshot and they could paste that back in this slide. Let's talk about now comparisons. So we're going to compare 3/4 and 5/6. I'm going to go back to my fraction app. This little circle down here will help me clear all my work. And I'm going to undo my labels. So if I am comparing 3/4, I'm going to choose my bar again. I have 4 parts. I'm going to shade 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and I have 5/6. What's awesome is you'll notice that I resized the bar, but every time a new fraction bar comes up, it's going to be the exact same size, which we know is so important when we're talking about comparisons and when we're talking about equivalencies, because the size of the whole makes a difference, right? A half doesn't always equal a half. If I have a half of a small pizza, it's going to be less than a half of a large pizza. Okay, so here I have 3/4, I have 5/6. And I can actually go down here to this text tool. You'll notice at the very bottom, it shows all 4 operations. And I can actually write my comparison sentence. So I could say 3/4, and you'll notice it's going to turn that right into a fraction, is less than 5/6. And I can make this a little larger. And now the student can take a screenshot of all of this, and they can paste it into that slide, and I can already see their thinking. The other option is you could select all of this, and I clicked and I'm dragging my finger around to make a circle, and you'll notice, oops, I can select, and you can copy an image as well. So I could do Control C. I could also right click and do copy image, and I could paste that back in. I've heard from some teachers that that does not work well on the Chromebooks, so I highly recommend doing what works the best for you and your students. Just wanted to give you some options. So that's kind of our comparisons. Let's talk about equivalency. So I could start over. Yes, let's say that I want to make as many fractions as I can equivalent to 1/2, right? So let's get my half shaded in. I can add a bar. What's cool with this is I can actually look at, so if I have 3 parts or if I make thirds, I'm looking at my thirds and none of my thirds are going to be equivalent to my 1/2, right? This will be less than, this will be greater than. So I know thirds is not going to work. So let's try fourths. I noticed that fourths does work. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to shade. And what's cool with this is I can actually drag this over and I can prove that it's equivalent because it takes up that same exact amount of space, right? This is why we want those bars to be equal sizes, because that's what equivalency means, right? That same exact amount of space. So I tried fourths, that was equivalent. I see that fifths doesn't work, so I'm going to try sixths. And what a great conversation to have with students. What are we noticing about all of those fractions that are equivalent to 1/2? What do I notice about those denominators? Do I see any patterns? Can I make any conjectures? So here, once again, we can have labels, or we could go back to this text tool. This is a great way to differentiate. And I can have the students tell me what the value of each of these fractional pictures or fractional representations is. So here are our fractions equivalent to 2/4. All right, so last but not least, we're just going to really quickly talk about creating a model to represent 4 times 1/3. And let me show you another great feature here. Third, okay. So if I have my fractional piece, I can select it and I can come down here and I can duplicate it. right? So I know that multiplication is that equal groups, right? We're repeating. So I have 1/3 plus 1/3 plus another 1/3. I have 4 groups. Let me duplicate this one more time of 1/3. And I can say 4 times 1/3 equals 4 thirds. Awesome. So there we go. Here's the thing that I get asked a lot is if we could take this and shade the bars different colors, right? And unfortunately you can't, you can only have one color. However, what I could do is I could shade in this piece and I could overlap these pieces, right? So now I'm showing that I have one whole, right? That's 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. And I could even make this another color if I want. And then another 1/3, which we know is equivalent to 1 and 1/3. So either representation would be true, right? We could keep this in a form of a fraction greater than one whole, or we could put it as a mixed number. Both are true, both are valid, as long as it is equivalent to 4/3 or 1 and 1/3. But both of those representations would work. We could also write over these if we want. I click down here to this pen. I'm going to select this. So I could say 1/3 and then another 1/3, right? And I can keep going and writing. Okay, so that is just kind of our fractions in a nutshell. Like I said, you'll see some more videos embedded throughout the curriculum. Please let us know if you have any questions. We are here for you. And thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.